If you've been to a retailer, then you've probably noticed that, wow, there is a lot of Marvel merchandise out there. Like, there's so much that my friend Redbart and I made a video a few months ago about how you could theoretically live entirely off of it. However, when researching that video, we found so much Spider-Man stuff specifically that we thought it could use its own video, which this is. So let me introduce you to Peter. He's your normal everyday guy, but with two major differences between you and me. For one, he owns every single piece of Spider-Man merchandise ever made. And two, he lives in a world where every single Spider-Man merchandising campaign or promotional tie-in is currently still ongoing.
Peter starts the day at the ring of his Spider-Man alarm clock. He slides out of his Spider-Man sheets and comforter and into a pair of Spider-Man slippers. He groggily walks over to his kitchen and busts out his official Daily Bugle breakfast blend coffee pods, but, you know, since his Spider-Man coffee maker is incompatible with them, Peter just whips out his vintage Spider-Man pocket knife and slices them open to make them work. Yeah, nothing stops Peter, or, you know, at least nothing but a lack of Spider-Man branding, but you know.
He could make a smoothie in his blender for breakfast, or toast up some Spidey Berry Pop-Tarts or mixed berry Marvel Eggos. But he decides to go with generic bread since his Spider-Man toaster burns little spiders into the toast. And with a product as awesome as that, how could you not use it every day? He spreads a little Spidey-branded Skippy peanut butter onto the slice, but Peter quickly realizes that he has a huge day ahead of him, and he's going to need even more carbs to get through it. Peter dons his Spider-Man apron and gets to work on prepping pancakes, but since his pan that shapes them into little Spider-Man masks is a bit overkill when the toast is already on the table, he instead goes with the regular old boring circles, courtesy of his Spider-Man pancake maker. Oh, but the pancake maker does still put designs on them, so there's that. But this isn't just any old pancake recipe that Peter is adhering to. Far from it. He is specifically using Aunt May's famous wheat cake recipe from the Untold Tales of Spider-Man comic, which was also brought into the new millennium when it was featured in Spider-Man for PS4 word for word. Don't forget to spread that batter with a Spider-Man spatula though.
While letting that hearty breakfast settle, Peter takes a trip to the bathroom to freshen up with his Spider-Man toothbrush holder, toothbrush, toothpaste, mouthwash, and rinse cup, and he also uses this time to grab his Spider-Man water bottle and changes into appropriate clothes for his daily workout. Peter here strictly follows a workout routine graciously provided within the pages of Stan Lee Presents the Mighty Marvel Comic Strength and Fitness book. Specifically, he likes Chapter 4, which is all about Spider-Man related exercises. These include, but aren't limited to, the web slinger's way out wall climbs, Peter's perpendicular leg extensions, and the Little Miss Muffet. By the way, Chapter 12, on the other hand, is all themed after J. Jonah Jameson, which has my personal favorite entry in the entire book, the Jameson Roar. Oh my god, finally, it's a workout for me. But unfortunately, Peter must have pulled something during his workout, so he better slap on a Spider-Man arm brace and heal up.
After wiping up some sweat with a Spidey-branded towel, Peter returns to his bathroom to clean up just a little bit more. But before that, he needs to take care of a little business. He lifts up his Spider-Man toilet seat and, well, let's cut away so he can poop in peace. Let's just hope that he's wiping up with this official 2-ply Incredible Hulk and Amazing Spider-Man toilet paper. The best part is that Peter isn't going to need to bring any additional reading material because the toilet paper itself has a freaking original comic story printed on it. To my knowledge, this is exclusive to the toilet paper and hasn't been re-released in any other medium since. But I just have so many questions now. Like, what if someone else used the bathroom in between your last visits? Would you still be able to follow the story? Is the comic canon to the mainstream comic universe? Is the toilet paper even any good for wiping in the first place? For us mere common folk, we may never know.
After catching up on all that reading, now would probably be a good time for Peter to wash up, and thankfully his shower is decked out with all the Spidey-related flair one would expect, like a shower curtain, curtain hooks, bath mat, and even a rubber ducky. Of course, he uses his Spider-Man soap and scrub set, complete with shampoo, body wash, and a loofah, dries off with yet another Spider-Man towel, and gets changed into a fresh set of clothes. Aside from his honestly pretty mundane sweatpants. Every other piece of clothing in Peter's outfit is actually pretty interesting. For example, he has a pair of pretty cool Venom shoes from Puma that are designed to look like the symbiote, and they also came in these super neat containment pods, very similar to this Carnage lava lamp that he's got going for the same effect. But you know, as cool as that is, the real centerpiece in his outfit, the real pièce de résistance, is this Spider Sense t-shirt. So check this out. It has a motion sensor built into the back of it that detects when someone is sneaking up on you, and it vibrates to give the wearer an early warning. Yeah, that's honestly really cool, right? The only thing I can ding this thing on is its marketing, because any Spidey fanatic could tell you that Venom doesn't set off the spider sense.
Now, normally at this point, Peter would love to kick back and maybe watch some Spider-Man related media, or kick around his Spider-Man soccer ball, go fishing, or maybe even go golfing. But alas, today is just not the day. You see, Peter here is a photographer, and today he has a pretty big job ahead of him, so he's going to need to go ahead and get going. He grabs his Spider-Man camera, Spider-Man Dell laptop, and Spider-Man messenger bag, and sets out on today's gig, promoting New York City tourism by taking photos of Spider-Man related areas for the New York City Convention and Visitors Bureau. Yeah, this was a real campaign that really happened, and recently, by the way. Spider-Man tourism. Who'd have thought? As for how he's going to get around town, I mean, he could get on the officially branded subway train, but in order to have a little bit more control over his life, Peter is going to need a set of wheels. And no, I'm not talking about his Spider-Man tricycle, although he did consider it for a while. But instead, Peter decides to ride this custom-built motorcycle by Harley-Davidson Australia. This thing is super slick, but you better be safe with a Spider-Man helmet and Spider-Man leather jacket.
In between shots, our boy is starting to feel a little hungry, and since his emergency supply of Spider-Man fruit snacks has run out, an actual lunch is in order. He considers going to KFC, or maybe even Hardee's, since they've both had promotional tie-ins with the web slinger, but he decides to instead go with a fast food chain that put a little more effort into their promotion. Everybody, let me introduce you to Burger King's Dark Whopper, released as a tie-in to Spider-Man 3. Now, this is definitely not the first or last Marvel-related Whopper that's been made, but funny enough, it was actually reused for a Batman campaign, of all things, years later. Speaking of funny, by the way, here's a fun little fact for you. So, Burger King hosted this campaign in the UK too, with a seemingly innocuous 30-second ad. It's about a guy who regrets not giving up his bus seat for an old lady, and then he, you know, does what any other young man would do. He expresses his regret by eating his Whopper and walking away. Yeah, I don't really get it either. This ad's honestly pretty lame, but it was also considered rude to old ladies by at least one of the stations that was airing it. We couldn't find any hard confirmation on this, but there's some hearsay that it's because of this aforementioned rudeness that it got banned after a while. Again, whether or not that's completely true, we're not 100% sure. It might have just been cut early because, again, this ad's pretty lame. But if you're from the UK and remember this ad, we would love to hear your insights. But, you know, regardless of whether or not this whole banned but maybe not banned commercial thing is entirely true, one thing does seem pretty clear, and that's that the UK sure does feel some kind of way about Burger King, huh?
I've had to go to Burger King.
Well, the good news is that we spent long enough on that little tangent that Peter is all done with his meal. He wraps up his photography for the day and heads home to freshen up because our boy has a hot date tonight. Once returning home, he turns on his Spider-Man boombox and puts on SpiderMan Rock Reflections of a Superhero, which is an official rock album that was produced by Marvel. With these groovy beats setting the mood, it's time for Peter to dress to impress. He changes into a very stylish suit, dons a Spider-Man tie, sneakers, has a spritz of Venom cologne, and hightails it to the Foxwoods Theater to meet his date. Peter arrives in the nick of time and he's greeted by Gwen. Now, as you can clearly see, Gwen is a bit of a Spider-Gwen superfan and is also covered from head to toe in related merch.
As for the musical they'll be attending, of course, it's Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. Now, if you've ever heard of this musical, it's probably because you heard that it was a spectacular disaster, and you heard correctly. It's basically the embodiment of what it means to be overly ambitious. You see, because of the admittedly great stunt work that was involved in the play, Turn Off the Dark was subject to a lot of problems. Like, seriously, anything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. There was years worth of delays, multiple broken bones, and unparalleled financial losses. This was, no joke, one of the most astonishing flops in Broadway history, and that's not even getting into how lame the soundtrack written by Bono and The Edge was.
Seriously, I could make an entire separate video about this musical, and in fact, I'm probably going to actually do that at some point. But for now, let's get back to Peter and Gwen. Needless to say, after only a few acts of this experience, Gwen decides that she just can't take any more of this and straight up leaves mid-performance. Clearly, this is a crushing blow to Peter's self-esteem, but hey, the night is still young, and Peter doesn't want to spend it all alone inside of his museum to all things wallcrawler. So he whips out his Realme X Spider-Man phone and calls up his other love interest, Mary Jane, for a little bit of Disney Plus and chill. But while waiting for her to show up, Peter plops down on his couch, grabs his remote that's in the shape of Spider-Man's hand, turns on his TV/DVD player combo set, and boots up his Spider-Man PS4 to play some, Spider-Man for PS4.
After a bit of game time, his dates arrived. You see, Mary Jane knows that Peter is a massive Spidey fan, so she went all out to impress him with a themed outfit right down to the official Amazing Spider-Man nail polish. And of course, the easiest way to a man's heart is through his stomach, so she brought with her a whole cavalcade of Spider-Man branded snacks. We're talking Doritos, we're talking Cheez-Its, and even a pizza from Pizza Hut. Pair this with a couple of Spider-Man Snuggies and, face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot.
Now, because of licensing deals, the Spider-Man collection on Disney Plus is sadly a bit limited, but what it lacks in movies, it more than makes up for in TV shows. I mean, come on, it even has the Spider-Woman cartoon from 1979, which actually doesn't make much sense because Spider-Woman was really never a part of the Spider-Man mythos, and the few ties that she does have were added years later as a means to kind of shoehorn her into it. Anyway, Peter and Mary Jane decide to watch a few episodes of Ultimate Spider-Man, and during an especially touching scene, Peter reaches for a tissue out of a, very unfortunate but atomically correct looking box of official Kleenexes. Sadly though, MJ isn't able to spend the night, but it was still a lovely and fulfilling day, so Peter decides to turn in for the night. He washes up, gets back in his pajamas, and catalogs the day's events in his Spider-Man journal with a Spider-Man pen under the warm glow of a Spider-Man lamp.
So, in conclusion, is it possible to live entirely off of Spider-Man merchandise? The answer is yeah, absolutely, it totally is. You'll have plenty of snacks, you'll have plenty of entertainment, you'll have, honestly, one of the most interesting shirts to have ever been made. Yeah, the point is, you can absolutely do this.
Now, you're probably wondering if any of this is actually possible, and I thought it was just going to be a work of fiction until I came across SpiderMan Rock. He has a YouTube channel showing off a lot of Spider-Man stuff. I want to personally give a very big thank you to Ross for helping out with this video because he pointed us in the direction of a lot of obscure Spider-Man merchandise. I also want to give a thank you to my co-host for this video, Redbard, because she's the inspiration for this, what I guess is becoming a recurring series. She does these kinds of videos for anime stuff, including a recent video on the Fate series, and if you can live entirely off of that merch. So if you liked this, then yeah, go check that out. But anyway, I hope you learned at least a little something new, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.